Mongolian warriors spent hours every day gripping a saddle with their inner thighs and wrestling opponents twice their size to the ground. Roman soldiers covered 30 kilometers under 40 kilograms of armor before fighting at the end of it. Okinawan karate masters held deep squat positions under full tension for minutes at a stretch. Zulu warriors covered vast distances barefoot across brutal terrain at speed. None of them had a gym. None of them leg pressed. And every single one of them had legs that most people training today will never develop. Here's exactly what they were doing and how to replicate it. Here's what modern fitness gets wrong. Your leg size isn't limited by your genetics. That part is a lie. What limits it is the range of motion and the movement patterns you actually train. Most gym programs hit the quadricep in one plane, one angle, one pattern. Push the sled, lower down, repeat forever. But the leg is made up of multiple structures. The quadriceps at the front, the hamstrings and glutes at the back, the adductors along the inner thigh, and the calves below. Modern training almost exclusively loads the quads in a seated, machine-assisted position that removes all stabilization demand. The hamstrings, adductors, and deep glute structures are almost completely ignored. Ancient warriors trained all four constantly without knowing it. Here's what they were doing and the modern exercises that replicate each one. By the way, if you want to heal your entire body and feel 10 years younger, then I've created a guide showing you how to heal your body through simple exercises. Click the link in the description for access. Culture 1. Mongolian warriors. Around 1,000 years ago, Mongolian warriors spent the majority of their lives on horseback. Hours every single day in a deep saddle position, gripping with their inner thighs, stabilizing through their hips, absorbing impact through bent knees and loaded glutes. When they dismounted, they trained wrestling, Mongolian bok, which demanded explosive hip extension, deep squatting positions, and sustained isometric gripping through the legs. The combination built something that leg press will never build: deep adductor strength, inner thigh density, the thickness that makes a leg look powerful from the front. The adductors are the single most ignored muscle group in lower body training. Most people's adductors have never been loaded under resistance in their entire training life. They do squats, lunges, leg press, maybe a leg extension, all sagittal plane movements. Nothing pulling inward, nothing loading the inner thigh under stretch. Mongolian warriors had no choice but to develop them because their entire existence demanded it. You have to build that stimulus back in deliberately. Here's the modern replication. The Copenhagen plank is the most direct adductor loading exercise that requires no equipment. Lie on your side. Place your top foot on a chair, bench, or elevated surface. Lift your body off the ground, supporting yourself on your forearm and that top leg only. Hold. Your inner thigh is now loaded isometrically under your entire body weight. Most people cannot hold this for 20 seconds the first time they try it. Work up to 3 sets of 30 to 45 seconds per side. If you want a dynamic version, perform lateral squats instead. Stand with feet wide, toes forward. Shift your weight to one side, bending that knee while the other leg stays straight. Lower as deep as you can, then push back. The loaded stretch on the inner thigh of the straight leg is something no gym machine replicates. 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps per side. Culture 2. Roman legionary soldiers. Roman legionaries were not athletes in the modern sense. They were load-bearing machines who covered vast distances under weight, day after day, for years at a stretch. Their leg development didn't come from training sessions. It came from sustained locomotive demand under external load. Carrying 40 kilograms of armor and equipment across uneven terrain for hours forced every stabilizing structure in the lower body to work continuously. Not in bursts, not in sets and reps, continuously. The result was hamstring and glute density that no machine-based training program produces, because machines remove the stabilization demand entirely. The leg press tells your stabilizers to switch off. Roman terrain told them to never stop. This is the difference between a leg that looks developed and a leg that is developed. Machine training builds the surface. Loaded locomotive training builds the entire structure underneath: the tendons, the stabilizing muscles, the connective tissue that makes a leg look thick at rest and not just during a workout. Here's the modern replication: weighted step-ups. Find a sturdy chair, a low wall, a park bench, anything knee height or slightly above. Hold a loaded backpack, 2 heavy bags, or a pair of dumbbells. Step up fully, driving through the heel of the elevated foot, extending completely at the top. Lower slowly under control. The slow lowering is the key. That eccentric phase is where the hamstring and glute are maximally loaded. Rush through it and you lose most of the benefit. 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps per leg. Add load progressively. When this feels manageable, increase the height or the weight. Roman soldiers weren't working toward a number. They were just moving under load every single day. That simplicity is the entire point. Culture 3. Okinawan Karate Masters. Okinawan karate training was built on one foundational principle above all others: the horse stance. A deep, wide, parallel squat position held for extended periods of time while executing strikes, forms, and drills. Practitioners held this position for minutes at a stretch, not seconds. Minutes. Under complete muscular tension, with no rest, no lockout, no release of the load. The result was quadricep development of a completely different quality to what conventional training produces. Not the surface quad sweep you get from leg extensions. A deep, all fibers recruited, continuously loaded quadricep that thickened the entire front of the leg from hip to knee. Most people's quads have never been trained through sustained tension. They train through reps: up, down, rest, repeat. The muscle loads and unloads rhythmically and gets brief recovery between every single repetition. Okinawan training removed that recovery entirely. The quad stayed loaded for the full duration. That is a completely different stimulus, and it produces a completely different result. Sustained time under tension builds the kind of quad thickness that makes legs look powerful standing still, not just mid-movement. Here's the modern replication. The wall sit, executed properly, is one of the most underestimated leg exercises in existence. Back flat against the wall, thighs parallel to the floor, feet hip-width apart. Hold. Don't let your hips rise. Don't shift your weight. Stay at parallel and sustain the contraction fully. Most people collapse within 30 seconds because they have never truly loaded their quads this way before. Work toward 3 sets of 60 seconds, with 60 seconds rest between sets. When that becomes manageable, add a loaded backpack. When that becomes manageable, try single leg wall sits. The progression is endless, and the equipment requirement is a wall. That is the entire setup. Culture 4. Zulu warriors. Zulu warriors were among the most physically conditioned light infantry in military history. Their training and warfare demanded something almost completely absent from modern leg training: sustained, high-speed, high-impact movement over uneven terrain for extended durations. They covered enormous distances barefoot across varied ground, which forced the calf, the foot, and the entire lower leg to function as an active, shock-absorbing system, rather than a passive structure supported by a shoe. The result was calf development that came not from isolated raises, but from thousands of genuine impacts, each one demanding a full-force contraction to absorb and redirect. This is plyometric loading in its purest form. And it builds a calf that looks thick and hard permanently, not just pumped after a set. Modern calf training is almost universally useless. Standing calf raises on a machine, 3 sets of 20, maybe some seated raises. The calf sees this stimulus, adapts in about 2 weeks, and stops responding entirely. It is one of the most stubborn muscle groups precisely because it is adapted to sustained, high repetition, high impact loading from walking and standing all day. To grow it, you have to shock it with something it has never experienced. Zulu warriors shocked theirs every single day without thinking about it. Here's the modern replication. Single leg bounding. Find any open space. Drive off 1 foot explosively, covering as much horizontal distance as possible, landing on the opposite foot, absorbing the impact through a bent knee and loaded calf, then immediately bounding again. Cover 20 to 30 meters per set, 5 sets. Rest 90 seconds between sets. The impact loading on the calf during each landing is dramatically higher than any calf raise variation. Add barefoot or minimal footwear training on grass wherever possible. Removing the shoe forces the calf and foot to absorb impact actively instead of relying on cushioning. That active absorption is exactly the stimulus Zulu warriors built their lower legs on. 4 cultures, 4 movement patterns, 4 exercises that together cover everything your leg training is missing. Do this as a standalone session or add it to the end of any lower body day. Copenhagen plank or lateral squat. 3 sets of 30 to 45 seconds or 10 to 12 reps per side. Weighted step-ups. 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps per leg. Wall sit. 3 sets of 60 seconds. Single leg bounding. 5 sets of 20 to 30 meters. Train this 3 times per week. Give it 8 weeks before you judge results. Dense muscle and connective tissue adapts slower than surface muscle, but when it does, it stays. And if you want to heal your entire body and feel 10 years younger, I've created a guide showing you exactly how to do that through simple exercises. Click the link in the description for access. If you've been training hard without seeing the legs you expected, this is probably why. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.